when you guys have had games or even quarters or halves like you had Saturday, whether it's you or your assistants that we hear from, a lot of times we hear about execution. What are you looking at to see where the execution falls short, and do you have any idea why?
Yeah, you're always looking at that, and I say this to you all a lot, is win or lose, you're doing the same type of things of analyzing what you're doing and what you got to get better at, and you know, I think we talked probably a lot last year about too many times when we needed to be at our best and we didn't make plays. And you know, Saturday again, you know, credit to Kansas State for completely outplaying us. You know, we get that turnover. I guess I'm going to kind of give you a saw here if it helps. Is you know, we get the big hit to start the game, and again we get the energy and the feeling, and we find a way to score, and then we have 2 penalties on defense and give up almost half the field of yardage for them to score, and then we have the low snap and then the special teams touchdown for them. And looking back, our sideline really deflated, and we never responded back with a momentum switch of that we needed to in a game like that. That's probably one of the bigger things that I look at. You know, they did a good job of probably mixing in more zone than they had shown in the past coverage. I think there were some things that, you know, Jalen had a couple balls tipped or almost, and I think there were some things that, you know, got him out of sync, and that's a credit to them. And then protection became an issue, and you know, we ran the ball better at times, but again, that's the offensive part. I can just say we just never looked in sync really all day. When you really look at it, never did. And you know, as I said, you know, Daniel ran hard, Jalen competed hard, didn't have his best day, of course, throwing the ball, and we put a lot on him. And looking back, I don't know if we put too much on him in a game like that, but you know, he's been that player for us. But we lost this thing as a program, not as players. It's coaches, it's everybody. Defensively, we anticipated the ball being thrown down the field more vertically, and it was. And they had more explosive plays than us. And again, but to their credit, as I said earlier, you know, again, you're starting to see a team kind of get its stride a little bit that many anticipated playing for the conference championship. So sometimes, as word goes, we sometimes, you know, forget about that as they had some close games early on. So, yeah, it's you know, we got a big test to kind of see where we're at as a program right now, and as a team, and our leadership from myself and others, that we have to make sure that we keep coaching this group and finding solutions and answers and create competition where we can. But just getting off the field now, I was very pleased with their attitude and work ethic of where they're going, and I think our older players see a need for some urgency in what we're doing, and I'm confident that we'll put together a good week.
I know a loss is a loss, and you treat it at one game and you move on, and you've done that throughout your 5 years here. Is it fair to say that a performance like that after the bye makes it hurt a little more, or is that not the way you look at it?
Well, you know, we've been very good after the bye. In fact, it's funny. I had a call from a top 5 coach in the country, reached out to me yesterday about what we do during our off weeks because he heard we had done so well. And I'm like, well, obviously you didn't check our score this week. But, I mean, so we have been. Again, so you look at who the opponent was, that we didn't play well. We didn't, you know, you're always kind of searching of what you switched up a little bit and what you've done. Yeah, it stings, you know. And I sure wish I was in here talking about making sure that we didn't have a letdown this week after an emotional win or something. So, and that goes back to your comments about making sure that you keep games where they're at. That's why I'm saying it that way. So it is. It's, you know, it's disappointing, as I said afterwards to you all, in many different regards. Off week, who the opponent was, where it's at, where the differential of score was. There's many, and we as a program, myself as head coach, we can't run from that. It is what it is. You are what your record is, and you got to move on. Did I answer your other question well enough, though? The first one? Okay.
Oklahoma State's gone through a coaching change this year. I guess to see Mike Gundy relieved of his duties, did that surprise you at all? And just how have you seen Oklahoma State respond to that?
Well, obviously last year Coach Gundy was, made a lot of changes, essentially revamped the whole staff. They invested well in the portal, better than they ever had, and I should say portal and players and moving forward, and they struggled out of the gate, and maybe at that time it was a little surprising considering of all the changes, and as we're talking about teams trying to find their niche and things like that, but and then you keep going every weekend here. Nothing is surprising in coaching ranks and job security in college football anymore. So maybe at that time, but everything that seemed to follow since, a guy who's done such a great job there for so many years. But it's what it is, I guess.
Just wanted to clarify something from Saturday. You mentioned that, when the coaches came in on Sunday, you have to figure out, if what you're doing is working, if people are in the right places. Were you talking about potentially staff changes, or were you just mentioning players, just making sure? No,
I meant people. I was talking about schematically. Are we giving our guys the best chance? Where are our deficiencies at? What can we do to help our guys? No, I was not in that realm at all. So
how does how does watching film change when there's been a coaching change, and then also they've changed their play caller once on offense since then? How does that whole thing work?
It's a real good question, Henry. You kind of, as you look at it, many times, staffs do it differently, but a lot of times it's been a while, we've said, since that change and some of that, so you get a little bit more body of work, but you are looking for, especially when it comes into the play caller, first if you're talking offensively, what changes have they made a little bit slightly philosophically. Obviously they're still under, I would imagine, most of the same terminology. With Clint taking over defensively, I don't how much of that was again an overhaul and looking at. So the earlier games with the other people, especially on the defensive side, you probably don't put as much weight into it. When you do your breakdowns, your percentages, sometimes you'll divide the two, and then you'll have it combined to look for the similarities of what they've done with. But it's a little bit of a balance, yeah.
And then, how much did you know Clint, or what was your relationship with him prior to his departure from LHS?
Yeah, I've known Clint. I've known who he was during my process. Before being offered the job here, I did have some small interactions with him. Obviously, his time, coaching at Lawrence High, had a chance seeing his teams come in here. I really respect Clint. He's an excellent football coach. I know in his time, he cares a lot about the University of Kansas and went through a lot of different head coaches and experiences here through the days. Banks is on the team down there now. His son's the same age as mine. So when we first moved to town, our boys were out. We played on the same summer baseball team when we were able to get acclimated into the community and had a chance a lot that way. Clint had a 7-on-7 team that he asked our son to play on. So got a lot of respect for Clint in a lot of different ways. I admire him for taking a chance to go back and coach in high school and have a chance to be the father he wants to be through that. I know this. I know he's going to put his heart and soul into this week, okay, and that's not going to be surprising, and there'll be a lot there. I'm sure he's got, he's probably working off a coffee and Red Bull or something right now, but a lot of respect for him.
Offensively, it seems like there have been some struggles putting the ball in the end zone over the last few weeks in the second half specifically. What do you feel like has led to some of the struggles, if you will, of getting the ball in the end zone really in the second half?
Yeah, it's, you wish you could say it was these two things, Michael, and then we could go working on it. It's something different on plays, and I know you guys are tired of hearing that, but if it's a protection breakdown, if it's a misread, if it's whatever, obviously we analyze the plays that are being called and revamping what those packages are in those parts of the field, and we need to continue to do that and to be better. And right now that hasn't been. And you look at as tough as these last two games have been, and probably what you're saying in the second half is we've had the ball one or two times still within a score or the ability to take the lead, and had 3rd and 1, I think, multiple times, and we have not converted. And we are well aware of that, very frustrated by that, and we have to get that improved.
At the tight end position, how much is your depth being tested there?
Really tested. Really tested. So that being said, with Carson, leaving the game early, I thought Leighton Cure stepped up and really played some spots that he hadn't practiced a ton at, and actually, did a good job for us. Did solid, and again, at this stage of the year, it is what it is. But in the open week, Bowden didn't practice much. Emmanuel didn't practice much. LaShawn hadn't practiced much, didn't play much. So when I talk about being in sync, we look at it and you look at some of that flow, we missed a little of that. Now, Bowden had to come in and play again now 70 snaps. In no way, shape, or form was he, going to be targeted for a 70-snap game like he was. And so it's going to be tested. We've got to see what else we can do. Jaden Ham got a few snaps, and then, Quentin Conley will get some work. Those are the ones that are still left healthy in the program at this moment. So.
Lance, when you look at the tape of this Oklahoma State team, do you see a difference between the way they play under Gundy and the way they play under Beecham and Clint Bowen?
Say that the last part again.
Do you see a difference in the way they play under Gundy
I don't know.
and the way they play under Bowen and Beecham?
I haven't gone through all the games as I do all the run-throughs and to be as transparent as I can versus what we're still analyzing internally. I started at most recent that I have, and I'm moving up to try to look at those similarities a little bit and what I do in film work. So, but I do know this. When I watch part of their games, they have some athletes. They have some talent. They have speed. They've created some big plays. They're doing things, and then all of a sudden, again, like many of us, we're trying to find the answers why we shoot ourselves in the foot, so to speak, and something happens. But I'm watching, as I'm going through certain games, I'm like, holy cow, that's another big play. That's another guy. There's another athletic quarterback making some things happen. So, again, it's still going to be, and I'm sure they're looking at it through their lens and where we're at, that this is a great opportunity for them to get a conference win and get themselves feeling good.
Yeah, and Daniel Highshaw's had a couple nice games post-injury. What do you see from him compared to, I guess, even before the injury?
A determination about him, Daniel always has been, but I think, Daniel Highshaw has come as far as any player in the last 10 months of just personally as he's in handling situations so much better, and the frustrations of not being healthy enough to go and things like that. I'm really proud of him on where he goes, but his determination. He had a really good. After having a chance to get on the field and play more than we expected down in Lubbock, that he as one that was practicing and had really good 2 weeks there, and he was really ready to go. It doesn't surprise me. He played well. He was locked in and ready to go. And again, hopefully as this goes with him, it gives him a continued platform to lead by example, work ethic, and all the things that we need here in this last third of the season.
Lance, you guys did some shuffling on the offensive line. What was your take after watching the film, and then what's it look like moving forward?
Yeah, again, with Calvin, and another one that missed all of the open week practices that, just by load and health, we felt it was going to split it split his reps up some. I thought he came out of it okay, and hopefully we can move forward with him on the field. But then the next move was moving Enrique and bouncing him over, and then Tavaka's still rotating in. Solid again. Again, some of the things that we struggle with is, communication stunts. Now we've put this on film for 2 games in a row. We've got to continue to work on that. I know Daryl's addressing it. And again, when you start mixing too many guys, you got to get used to that guy that's working with you. You got to be able to talk, communicate, and all those different things. And that's a high point of emphasis this week.
Anything else for Coach Leipold?
All right. Thanks for coming out, and have a good week.